Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Paul Roy, and I'm the host of the Partnership Advantage podcast and also the founder of Profitable Practice Pro. And I am so happy and honored today to have Julie Alleyn, with us as my guest. And Julie, I got to meet through an organization called Success Champions. And Julie does, by the way, fit into the success category. We should know that. So, welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me.
Yeah. And today we're going to get to learn a little bit more about Julie, and we're going to have some conversations deep into leadership and how Julie works with those types of things. But first, I want to just give a little nugget and a little expanding a bit of your background, Julie, and then we'll get started. How about that?
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay. There, got to lose my notes here. So, Julie is an HR strategist who turns your people problems into profit drivers. Oh, human resources and profit in the same sentence. You've got my attention. And with over 25 years of experience and credentials in both the CHRL and certified executive coach, Julie specializes in one thing: helping business owners scale without the growing pains. I want to learn more about that. And if you're running a company between 20 and 150 employees, that's a big band, but 150 is a bunch of people. And Julie's your person. She provides fractional HR services. She does executive coaching and leadership development, as we discussed earlier before we came on the air, is a deep passion of Julie's. Um, we've got somebody wanting to join the stream, but they're not coming into the room. So anyway, based in Mississauga, Julie is both fluent in French and English, and she works across Canada, turning chaotic workplaces into top talent that want to stay and contribute with their companies. So welcome, Julie, officially. Yes.
Thanks.
So let's dig right into the questions. They didn't come here to listen to me talk. They came to learn from you. And from my observations in the human resource business, and it's changed dramatically in the last 10 years. I think we'd all agree on that. And it's become much more than just compliance, where they would fill in the forms, they'd cruise the resumes before a company did the hiring. And now it's so much different. And a boutique firm like yours has expanded to provide other services. What drove you to work on leadership in teams along with the compliance work, Julie?
Well, Paul, you're absolutely right about that dramatic shift. So, when I started 25 years ago, HR was primarily focused on administrative functions, payroll, benefits, following employment laws. It's important work, but it was more reactive, like extinguishing fires. So, what I've seen over the past decade is this evolution towards being true business partners. Companies started realizing that their people weren't just resources to manage, but their competitive advantage to become more profitable. So, by growing and developing people, you're able to bring out the best. So, if you grow your people, they will in turn serve your customers right, which will impact your bottom line in the end positively. So, it just makes a lot of sense to invest in your people.
It's not,
Um, yes.
well, I was going to say, because, when we think of the term manager of this or manager of that, which means they manage people, they oversee them, they measure things that they do, and it's not really a collaborative term, manager. It's
No.
almost like it should be removed from the ops manual, where they're collaborative team leaders and leadership
Yeah.
being that way. And that's those subtle changes that we've needed in human resources.
Yeah, I do think slowly, we're not managing widgets, we're managing human beings. And we need to put the human back into human resources.
Oh, isn't
Yeah,
that the truth? As somebody in my life who I've had a couple of experiences of HR show up in the frame of my doorway to my office, and we went out as a couple, which means that I wasn't returning to that office. And I must share a little experience here in that a company that I'd risen very quickly in and had applied to be senior vice president of the company, and I came in second. And the individual who won fired me, and I was really upset. I mean, I was bruised, and then I went to the
Yes.
human resource lawyer and a specialist, and he said, "Well, what was the compensation package?" And I told him what the compensation package was. He goes, "Paul, it's a compliment. Take the money and run. You weren't just a
Okay.
fit to this particular corporate silo. You were too independent for the job." And when
Mm,
you think back of those things, and that perhaps many people listening here have been through that experience, and I'm certain you've held the hand of people and taken them out of their
mm.
office. It-
Yes, and 100% in the sense that sometimes on the moment it feels like it's a disappointment.
yes.
But in the end, sometimes it's a great opportunity because you're not in the right place at the right time, and you need to make room in your life for something amazing to happen. But that happens with leaving a place and getting ready for the next step in your career.
And do you find that, and this isn't perhaps one of the questions we talked about, but it's those people that had that experience. Are they better for it on the other side? They realized where the fit wasn't, and you've seen people, it's not just taking them out and removing them, it's coaching them into new careers and new opportunities.
I think sometimes some people will get it, some people won't, but the people who do will realize, and if they've been listening properly, and I we try to be like transparent. It's not about attacking people. It's just telling them that you're not in the right position at the right time. So it's like it's not the right fit, it's not aligning. You're not, you're not able, you may not have the competencies for this particular role, or you've outgrown it. It's not the right fit. And I think people with time, looking back, then they say, you know what, that was a good thing that happened. But it doesn't
But
happen on
I'm,
that day.
on that particular day, it stings. There's no question. So, Julie, what do you see the biggest challenge for owners and founders face in running their businesses and firms? Is it the finance, the people, the systems? What is what do you see in the people that you're working with as their the leaders with their biggest challenges are?
Well, here's the thing, founders usually start with a passion and a great idea. They often treat HR as this necessary evil they'll deal with later. And that thinking may cost massively in the future, because if you're not paying attention, it can come back and bite you in the future. So I would say it's definitely all of the above. Based on my 25 years of experience, they're all interconnected. You can have perfect finances, systems, but if you don't have the team that sticks with you, if you're constantly losing people, retraining, dealing with workplace drama, your finances and systems become meaningless.
So here's a question, just to come on this, because so often, and I always, because I love, the team environment and the businesses that I've owned, my staff rarely ever left because I didn't want to do their job. I encouraged them to do their job. I didn't want to do it for them. And so what happens is that in that situation where, if you can, shall we say, polish it up that's attractive, where you bring people into your business, but 3 months later, they're going out the back door. So is it the systems? Is it, and Is it the leadership? Is it the training? Again, all of the above, I'm certain, but it's the chronic turnover within companies. It must be unsettling to be able to go in there, and it's certainly that's why they'd hire you to come in and help with these issues.
Yeah, often the missing part of the puzzle is the onboarding. So people
Okay.
put a lot of time in the recruitment process. They do psychometric assessments, they do panel interviews, they do culture fit, they do all of that. But then they welcome the new employee and they say, "You're on your own." And then after 3 months, the
Here it
person
is.
is gone. And then they wonder, what happened? You were perfect. What happened? Why are you leaving? Well, there's a lot of, um, the 30, 60, 90 planning of that person's, what do they need to learn? Who they need to work with? Do they have all the tools they need to do the good job? Or there's like a time they need to adapt and to get the support they need from their leaders to become efficient and learn the systems and the culture and how things are done in this new business. But if there's a little bit of transitioning for that person, that's often, the statistics, it's quite high, like 44% of people leave in the first 90 days. That's incredible.
It has to be to do with failed expectations. In other words, what the company sold and
Yes.
what the employee received
And
are
that's
two
often,
different things.
yes. And sometimes the people who are selling the job and recruiting are promising things that are not equal to reality. So that happens. That happens definitely. So it's trying to be as transparent and real as possible and not promising things that, are not true.
So then, when you bring up a good point in that how to trying to figure a way to phrase this properly, and not that it's the wrong way to say it, but just to get the impact that when an employer doesn't live up to that expectation and they leave, how is how do you coach that leader? How do you move them to go, well, maybe the problem just isn't the systems. Maybe it's how I approach them. And then, an opportunity for you where they hire you as a fractional HR person to come in and help them with these things, to open the door to have that conversation with the leader. I'm
Yeah,
certain you must see this on a regular basis.
we do try to do exit interviews or speak to the candidate or the new employee
Uh-huh.
that's leaving and try to dig a little deeper into what is the essence of what's
Mhm.
the issue. And with that, we're able to collect a lot of information. Unfortunately, some leaders are not willing to action that information into changes. So you know they want to know, but they don't want to know.
And how many, I'm going to throw this out because it would be a guess. Because I know I've lost count in working with business owners, how many times I've heard, I'm a good judge of character. And
Oh yeah.
and then
Everything.
and then they shake their head and they can't understand why they left.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's everybody thinks they're good recruiters, they're good,
Yeah.
they have good judgment in people, and yeah, sometimes they're their worst enemy. So yes.
Yeah. So we're going to shift. I mean, this is the Partnership Advantage podcast here. So I just want to shift the conversation a little bit toward focusing and working with partnerships. And I know I see it in my work and you see it and what is unsaid really sometimes. And you just explained it from employees who leave. It's an in-depth exit interview that you can probe to the root of what the issue is. But the same thing, I mean, the experiences that you would have had working in partnerships where the partners don't align, and sometimes that is part of the problem in the culture of the company is the mixed messages. So how do have share a little bit about your experiences in that? Because and it may not just be business partner to business partner, but it may be C-level, C-suite people
Mhm.
whose authorities overlap in some areas and the clarity in terms of role. Um, Looking for some advice or things that will help some of the partnership audience that's listening, how you approach that, how do you go about that? I know it's a long-winded question, but
Yeah, I don't think it's just partnerships. I think it's also leadership teams.
yeah.
All the time we see that. People think they're being diplomatic by staying quiet, but they're actually, what they're doing is letting resentment build until it explodes. The go along, get along mentality is pretty much poison. I've seen partnerships implode because one person spent 2 years nodding along internally, keeping score of every decision they disagreed with.
Hmm.
So it's um, it's not healthy. So healthy partnerships or leadership teams require a productive friction. So you're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to bring maybe a different perspective. You should be. You should be allowed to discuss. This is a healthy conversation and conflict. It's not oh my god, no conflict at all costs. That's not how life is. So yeah, I do think you can't have an honest if you can't have an honest conversation with small issues, you'll never survive the big challenges that every business faces.
Oh my goodness, that's really powerful. Because if you can't have the little conversations, you would never be able to have the big ones. Very insightful. It's when you think about it, at myself as a business owner, and I'm certain you've had these conversations with business owners, and we'll circle back to, asking an employee to leave or an employee being escorted out. In that, because they've been with you for so long, and you have memories of when they were a great employee, and for some reason they just started to fall off, and that we struggle to let them go when we should have let them go a long time ago. And I know to myself when I've made those decisions to let people go is when within hours, once the actual um, worry about the conversation and what's going to happen, and I'd say, why did I wait so long?
Yes, yes,
Should have done
and
this 2 or 3 months ago. They'd have been
yes,
happier. I would have been happier. And all we did is just putting another log on the fire.
yes. It's tough decisions. Like letting a person go is always a tough
Pardon me.
decision. And so I really honestly understand that. However, it's always looking at, okay, by not taking action, what are you saying yes to? So you're saying yes to the behavior you don't want to see. You're demotivating your team. You're letting a person maybe take advantage of the other people doing their work. Like there's a big impact to not doing anything as well. So it's always trying to see, okay, if I accept this further, what am I saying no to or yes to? I think it's a good way to see it and to motivate you even more to make the decision you need to make.
Yeah, exactly right. And the important message I think that, what I'm reading back out of this is that your other staff, pardon me, I'm just at the tail end of a cold here. Um, they see what's going on and they see that you're allowing this
Yes.
misbehavior, this special? Why did they get away with this? And that's
And
just it's a
yeah,
team crushing exercise, not a team building
yes.
exercise.
And exactly. You're telling your employees, don't do good work. Like, I'm not gonna recognize all the good stuff you're doing because I'm allowing this person to not do good work. So your behavior as a leader is always measured by the whole team. So if you think they don't see it, they do. They do. And
They
it's going to come back to bite you. So of course, if it's, a few weeks or a month, it's not like years. Years of not addressing a problem has a different impact than, a week or two. But the faster you address an issue, the better it will be for you, for your business, for the team. So don't let anything fester. Just address it as it happens.
be firm in your decisions with empathy.
Yes. And understanding. And we are dealing with human beings. Life happens, divorce, death, sick children. You could have a wonderful employee who's going through difficult times. Well, you have to have understanding for that.
Yes, exactly right. Um, and if we don't allow them to come to work with these things, and if we don't ask them how are things, you
Yes.
know, you and don't be afraid to ask them, because if we show we care and we ask the question properly, it's
Mhm.
non-threatening. It's an expression of caring and love.
Yes,
It's,
and it's not about prying into their private lives. It's
yeah,
about caring about them, their well-being,
yeah,
and we see a difference between how it was before and how it is right now. And yeah, we need to know, we need to understand, and because we care 100%.
yeah, yeah. Last question, and it's I personally dislike the term conflict resolution, but it's real. And is it
Hmm.
not really more of managing difficult conversations that must be part of what you do? So, for our viewers, can you suggest a tip on how best to set up a conversation on setting boundaries and accountability? Because that's really what it's about, isn't it?
100%. So I love the fact that you hate the term conflict resolution. I like to call it a boundary clarity conversation.
Okay.
So, so you really need to start with the intention, not accusation. Instead of you always do this, try, I need to talk about how we can work together more effectively. So that's a good way to introduce the tone of the conversation. It's not about pointing fingers. That never brings anything
Mm,
good.
yeah.
Then we try to get specific about the behavior and the impact. So when deadlines get missed without communication, it puts the whole project at risk and creates stress for the team. And finally, collaborate on the solution. How can we set up a system where everyone stays in the loop about timeline challenges? So, those three elements can really set you up for finding solutions and setting boundaries, but keeping people accountable as well.
Yeah. It really is a balancing act, but it's um, being able to ask the question to get the answer without it being threatening,
Hmm.
without it being judgmental. And we allow the emotion to come out in the response,
Yes.
because that's where the real juice is.
100%. And it's creating that psychological safety before you dive into accountability. So they need to understand that you're not attacking them personally, you're trying to solve a business problem. So when you frame it as how do we make this work better for everyone, um, instead of here's what you're doing wrong, it, really brings a better um, collaboration perspective into
Yeah.
finding solutions.
Wonderful. And we haven't even touched because we're coming to the end. So I want to ask you how our viewers can find you is because we didn't even touch on the topic of performance reviews, which is another whole skill set in itself. Takes
Yes.
me back to my grade 3 teacher in school. And Paul has so much potential. Anyway, um, how can the audience find you, Julie? What's the name of your? Well, I did express the name of your firm, but tell us some more how they can
Yes.
find you.
So you can go to our website, Pegasus Evolution, um,
Mhm.
and see all the description of our services. And you can schedule a complimentary uh, uh, call with us, and we'll be happy to discuss with you any of your needs and see if we can work together in the future and build that great work culture.
And I'm going to post when this is over because this is also running live on LinkedIn, and it will be available for review later at choice. I'm going to put Julie's contact information for Pegasus in there, and Julie also has a large presence on LinkedIn. So if you can't find her, you need to help get a little better with your search skills. But we're going to make it easy for you and put it in the description here in about 3 minutes. Julie, this has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Paul. I really enjoyed it. And I think we can definitely continue this conversation further because there's so much to explore in terms of helping business owners see things differently and see HR differently as well.
Yeah, I'm loving the new transformation coming out of HR, and you're helping lead the charge on that, Julie. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Paul Roy, Profitable Practice Pro, great to have you. And if you didn't see us live,